4,000 years ago, the most advanced civilization on Earth disappeared without a single trace, and we still have no idea what happened to them. They had running water in their homes, covered sewage channels beneath their streets, and city grids so precise they looked designed by modern architects, 1,500 years before ancient Rome was even founded. They had 5 million people across hundreds of cities, stretching across a territory larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined, the biggest civilization on Earth. Around 1900 BC, they simply vanished. No war, no famine evidence, no conquering army, no natural disaster we can pinpoint. They walked away from everything they had built, and the world forgot them for 4,000 years. Their writing has been found on thousands of seals and tablets. It has never been decoded. The world's best linguists have worked on it for a century. The script remains completely, stubbornly, heartbreakingly silent. Nobody knew they had existed, not the ancient Greeks, not the Romans, not even the people living directly above the buried ruins. Then, in 1920, a British archaeologist's shovel struck brick that had been sitting undisturbed for 4,000 years. What came out of the ground at Harappa and then at Mohenjo-daro, 600 kilometers away, was staggering. Two cities, built to exactly the same standards, the same brick dimensions, the same drainage design, separated by vast distance but clearly part of one civilization. Over the following decades, archaeologists identified more than 2,000 sites across what is now Pakistan, northwestern India, and Afghanistan. A civilization covering 1.5 million square kilometers, larger than any contemporary state on Earth, had been hiding under the soil the entire time. Before archaeologists could study it fully, a British railway crew in the 1850s had already used millions of ancient bricks as railway ballast, grinding up an unknown number of Indus cities before anyone realized what was being destroyed, an entire civilization used as gravel. The man who first catalogued one site in 1826, a British soldier named Charles Masson, wrote in his journal that he'd seen a hill of ancient bricks. He moved on. Nobody followed up for nearly a century. The civilization waited patiently. 100 years of excavation has produced an extraordinary picture of how these people lived. Their tools, their jewelry, their drains, their games, their granaries, all recovered. But who they were, what language they spoke, what they believed, complete silence. In 1924, the archaeologist John Marshall announced the discovery to the world with a single sentence. This revealed a hitherto unknown period in Indian history, an understatement for the ages. Walk into Mohenjo-daro at its peak, around 2500 BC. The main street is 9 meters wide, oriented perfectly to the compass points. This is not a city that grew organically. This is a city that was planned. Every house is built from standardized baked bricks. Every brick across every city in the civilization made to the same ratio of 1.24. A standardized building code, enforced across a territory the size of Western Europe 45 centuries ago. The houses have indoor bathrooms, not a courtyard pit, a proper enclosed room connected to covered brick drains that run beneath the streets. The Roman Cloaca Maxima, considered a marvel of ancient engineering, was built 2,000 years after this. Every neighborhood has a public well. Many houses have private wells. The distribution of clean water across these cities suggests something astonishing. A municipal government sophisticated enough to manage citywide infrastructure without any palace, any throne, or any monument to a ruler. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro, 12 meters long, 7 meters wide, nearly 3 meters deep, waterproofed with bitumen, surrounded by a colonnade with changing rooms and drainage. It has stood for 400 or 500 years. Nobody knows what it was for. There are large granary structures at the major cities, capable of storing thousands of tons of grain. A food distribution system, a communal reserve, evidence of a government that thought about its people's survival at scale. Their craftwork reached buyers across the known ancient world. Their carnelian beads and lapis lazuli jewelry have been found in royal tombs in Mesopotamia and Egypt, evidence of a trading network spanning thousands of miles. These were not isolated people. Among the most extraordinary finds, the dancing girl, a small bronze figurine, barely 10 centimeters tall, found at Mohenjo-daro. A young woman in a confident hip-forward pose. She has been standing in that exact pose for 4,500 years. She doesn't know she's a mystery. They made terracotta toys, wheeled animals, small rattles, miniature carts. A child 4,500 years ago played with a wheeled toy and laughed at exactly the thing a child would laugh at today. That continuity is one of the most quietly devastating facts in all of archaeology. The seals, small carved squares of stone bearing animals, and that undeciphered script were likely trait identifiers. A unicorn-like beast on one, a tiger on another, a bull, a rhinoceros. Each image is a sentence we can see but not read. Here is the most remarkable absence in all of Indus Valley archaeology. No palaces, no royal tombs, no large statues of rulers, no monuments to individual leaders. In Egypt at the same time, pharaohs were building pyramids. In Mesopotamia, kings were carving their names everywhere. In the Indus Valley, nothing. This complete absence of elite monuments has led archaeologists to propose something extraordinary. The Indus Valley Civilization may have governed itself without kings, a federation of trading cities, a merchant oligarchy, a civic system so stable it needed no royal propaganda, for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years, roughly 2600 BC to 1900 BC, this civilization maintained consistent standards across hundreds of cities, millions of people, and an enormous territory, without armies patrolling between them, without visible coercion. That is an achievement no other ancient civilization matched. And then it ended. Of all the mysteries the Indus Valley left behind, the script is the most maddening. Approximately 4,000 inscriptions have been found. Not one has been read. Not a single word in 100 years of trying. Every known method of deciphering an unknown script requires a bilingual key, a text in the unknown language alongside a known one. The Rosetta Stone gave us Egyptian hieroglyphs. There is no Rosetta Stone for the Indus script. None has ever been found. The script uses between 400 and 600 distinct signs. Most inscriptions are just 5 signs or fewer. Short texts, no bilingual key, no related language. The standard computational tools of decipherment have nothing to grip. Researchers have used AI and machine learning to analyze patterns. Computational analysis confirms the script has statistical properties consistent with a real language. It is not random, not decorative. It says something. We just cannot hear it. What does it say? Trade records, religious texts, the names of their cities, their laws, their prayers, the names of the people who carved the seals. We do not know. The most sophisticated writing system in the ancient world speaks to us every day from museum cases and says absolutely nothing. Here is the human cost of that silence. We cannot know what the Indus people called themselves. We cannot know what they called their cities. We cannot know what they believed, who they prayed to, what stories they told their children. 5 million people, mute to us forever. And the silence of the script makes the final mystery, the disappearance, even more terrible. If we could read their writing, we might have their final records, their own account of whatever came to end their world. Instead, nothing. The script remains the longest surviving undeciphered writing system from a literate civilization in human history. 4,000 inscriptions, 4,000 messages from the void, all saying the same thing to us. You will never know. Around 1900 BC, the great cities began to empty, not overnight, gradually, over perhaps a century. Populations declined, buildings fell into disrepair. The trade networks went quiet, the writing stopped being used, and the civilization dissolved. No one theory has been proven. After a century of research, the mystery of the Indus Valley collapse remains completely open. Here are the 4 main theories, and why none of them is enough on its own. Theory 1. Climate change. Around 1900 BC, monsoon patterns over South Asia shifted, reducing rainfall, drying rivers. A civilization built on river agriculture suddenly facing a drying world. Populations moved east, toward the Ganges plain where the rains still fell. The Saraswati River, mentioned as a great waterway in the earliest Vedic texts, dried up around this period, possibly due to tectonic shifts that diverted its tributaries. Hundreds of Indus cities had been built along its banks. When the river went, they went. Theory 2. Epidemic disease. Dense urban populations sharing water supplies and sewage systems are vulnerable to waterborne disease. A pandemic spreading through the interconnected Indus cities could have devastated populations faster than the agricultural base could sustain. The evidence. At Mohenjo-daro, in the layers closest to the city's abandonment, archaeologists found unburied bodies in the streets, some showing traumatic injuries. This does not fit the narrative of a peaceful, gradual migration. Something violent or sudden happened here, at least at the end. Theory 3. The Aryan Migration. For decades, the arrival of Indo-European-speaking peoples from the Central Asian steppes was blamed for the collapse. But the dates don't align. The cities were already largely empty before any major migration arrived. Modern genetics adds a crucial piece. DNA analysis of ancient Indus Valley remains shows a population genetically distinct from later arrivals. Their genetic signature disperses across South Asia after 1900 BC, consistent with a diaspora, not an extinction. The people didn't vanish. The civilization did. Theory 4. A combination of everything. Climate stress weakened the agricultural base. Flooding disrupted some cities. Disease moved through the weakened population. Governance collapsed under the pressure. People left in stages, not fleeing, but dissolving, city by city over generations. The most honest answer, after a century of effort by the world's best archaeologists, geneticists, and climate scientists, is simply, we don't know, not we have some ideas. Genuinely, honestly, we do not know. The Indus people didn't die. Their descendants are almost certainly among the billion people living in South Asia today. Some scholars argue that traces of their culture survived in early Vedic traditions, the ritual bathing, the reverence for cattle, certain symbols that appear on Indus seals 1,000 years before they appear anywhere else. But the cities did not survive. Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and hundreds of other urban centers were abandoned. The knowledge of how to build and maintain them was lost. Humanity went backward in the Indus Valley. It took 1,000 years to reach the same level of urban complexity again. The dancing girl still stands in her pose in the National Museum of India. She has been in that pose for 4,500 years. She doesn't know her people are gone. She just stands there, hip forward, hand on hip, with the confidence of someone who had no idea that everything she knew was about to vanish. The drainage channels of Mohenjo-daro still work. Water poured into them today would flow correctly through their 4,500-year-old courses. The engineering outlasted the civilization by 4 millennia. The drains are still here. The people are not. This is what the Indus Valley Civilization teaches us. Complex, advanced civilizations, even ones that last 1,000 years, even ones with running water and city planning and long-distance trade and a 1,000,000-square-kilometer territory, can collapse. The knowledge that built them can be lost. The world can forget they existed. The Indus Valley Civilization is asking you something across 4,000 years of silence. Not in its undeciphered script. We can't hear that. In the fact of its disappearance. In the empty streets and the unread seals and the dancing girl still standing in her pose. The question is, what are you building, and what will remain when it is gone? Tell us your answer in the comments.